Well, welcome back. We are here live with Adrian Garcia, master grower from Oregon, and Dr. David Snipper, who is a medical doctor here in Las Vegas, and we are talking about a very interesting subject, marijuana. And Dr. Snipper, you were one of the guys that had one of the original licenses here in Nevada, and probably, it probably helped to be a doctor, right?
It may have helped. It may not have helped. There's pluses and minuses in that regard.
Yeah.
It's a little unconventional.
As I understand it, there were thousands of people that were trying to get a license, but only the few chosen few got.
Yeah, it was a little
one.
tough. It was a little tough. It is. It's made that way for good and bad reasons, and we just have to accept that.
Now I understand you have some amazing products that you're developing. We talked about marijuana, and I think a lot of us think of it from movies and so forth as smoking something, right? And you smoke a joint, or you put it in a bong, or however you do it. But you also have all kinds of other ways. You have edibles. You have
Vape pens,
brownies. There's vape pens. There's just
sprays,
all kinds of ways
creams,
of. Yeah, and I suppose you can even have
suppositories.
injections, right?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That falls under the purview of the FDA much more, and that's not approved. I don't think anybody's going to be doing that just to see what happens, but
Okay.
it will happen in time.
Yeah, I would think so. So. Tell us about some of these products and what the future is going to be.
We use derivative products is the term that encompasses anything that isn't just the plant. So you can have whatever processes you apply to the plant to make it a derivative product is kind of what classifies it. For example, if you're making a vape pen, you're extracting the oil and then putting that oil into a vape cartridge. And essentially you're not smoking it, but you're vaporizing it. You're applying heat, and it doesn't have carbon, so it doesn't burn the way a cigarette does. That's vaporizing. If you are taking an extraction product like oil and then putting it in a brownie, that makes it up. It's called an edible. So there are these different classifications, and all it is just a different way of consuming it. Each one has pluses and minuses, and a lot of it has to do with just preference or taste as well. They're all valid.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the same as it is with any medicines in that sense. I mean, you might take an antacid in the form of a Tums that coats your stomach, or you might take a pill that then reduces your stomach acid. Those work in different ways. So does this. There are variations.
That's very interesting. Well, Adrian, as a master grower, one side of the industry, but you've got a doctor sitting next to you. Is there anything you've always wanted to ask a medical doctor about this magical plant of yours?
I really can't think of just one question. I could think of a couple that kind of come to mind real fast. Is I've always really wondered, but then seeing it with family members and experiencing it firsthand, I've always wondered, does it really work? But then now experiencing it, seeing it, I don't necessarily have to ask that question no more. So.
Most doctors do ask that question, though.
Yeah, and so now
You answer the question for them.
Right. So, in a sense, me actually growing answers a lot of the questions that I would have normally asked a doctor.
It's unusual, though, to find master growers who have had a lot of interactions with doctors or medical professionals throughout the course of their own career. Isn't that true?
Absolutely.
That's an interesting thought, because I would imagine that you have a lot of growers who have been growing it from years gone by, maybe probably illegally. I guess it would have to be illegally.
Correct.
But for their own use and so forth, and they just sort of evolve into the legalization part, right?
Right,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah, they've come a long way from being a backyard grower to a multi, millionaire farmer. And it's changed a lot of things in a lot of ways. People think in growing as well. There's new technologies that we're coming out with, lights, things to eliminate molds and things like that, as opposed to using pesticides, using ultraviolet, things like that, going to the medical fields and using things that they use for sterilization. So there's a lot of things that we're kind of incorporating with growing, kind of like we're not really reinventing the wheel, we're just finding a better way to make it perform.
Well, here's a question for you. Did your grandma ever have any good home remedies?
Yes.
Yours?
Absolutely.
They always do.
They always do.
And yet these things kind of fall by the wayside oftentimes in favor of our new modern technology.
Yeah.
I'll tell you something that's interesting. Neither the one nor the other is necessarily better. Each one works sometimes in its own place. This industry is a fusion of the two. That's what's so fascinating about it, is bringing the old with the new. That's why I like it. That's why I find it immensely interesting and fascinating.
You know, as a medical doctor, you've seen it all, I'm sure, in the hospitals, emergency rooms, and so forth. But what got you into this business? I mean, because this is your passion now.
It is indeed a passion.
Yeah. What got you to be so passionate about it?
What I was alluding to before, if you look at modern healthcare, a lot of the way we practice is status quo. Things don't change oftentimes, or at least don't change enough. When there's a call for a change, we need to be able to be open to new avenues of looking at things.
Right.
I didn't experience that in 25 years of medical practice nearly as much as I would have liked to. I didn't get to, therefore, apply any creative skill in coming up with novel approaches to things. This industry allows for that while still practicing medicine in a sense, which is exactly the sort of opportunity that I would have wanted. And there it was.
Well, let's turn the tables. Adrian got to ask you a question. So, what have you always wanted to know from a master grower?
Do the plants sing to you?
I sing to them. They kind of dance for me, so to speak.
Okay.
But no, they don't. I like to get that personal relationship with them. Of course, that's one of the things that we always like to do. As being a master grower, and other people that I talk with that are in the same position, they pay close attention to their plants. They almost build a relationship with them. It's almost like a birth when you see them and a memorial when they go. But at the same time, too, it's happy to see them go because you know they're on to better things.
So when you listen to that, which is fascinating, there's a strong spiritual reference right there, which is something that draws me into this industry also. And it's been present with growers for years, with farmers, with anybody who's in touch with the earth. Mm-hmm. It's part of what needs to be fixed with modern medicine, because we don't apply that element as much. I mean, certainly we feel it as doctors, we're compassionate, but we don't apply it in our practice. I'm not saying that everything has to be metaphysical. It still is scientific. There's some elements of science we just don't quite understand yet, but we know what we get drawn to and where we should focus our attention. That's how we turn allegories into science.
Yeah.
And understand them better.
Yeah, it's very interesting. They've done some studies about plants that if you grab a pair of scissors and you're heading to clip off something on the plant, that it will react, right?
That's why I was asking that, yeah.
Yeah, and so I guess, that's very interesting, and I would imagine that the marijuana plant does the same thing.
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of things that can influence its growth, can hinder its growth as well. I've had bad days, and some days lasted longer than others, which turned into weeks. And in all honesty, the plants have reflected that. So it's not necessarily just physical things. It's also, like you said, the emotional attention that they need as well.
Do you think that really makes a difference in who's a good grower and who's not?
Personally, I would say yes. Some people that don't have a passion for it, they're looking for the recreational aspect. They may not have the quality that's necessarily there for medicine. It may be there for, the recreational user, or as opposed to the ones that have the passion. Those are the ones that are generally getting sought out for those medical facilities. They're making the edibles and things like that for them.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's very interesting. And so those plants can react to you. I would imagine they would react to music, right?
I have done some experience with music, and I do believe that they take a positive note on music. Some people argue it's the vibrations in the sound. Some people say it's just the tone of voices, so they have that attention of being, a presence of having a group, kind of like how you and I are talking now, and so it's really just a wonder. Again, it's just a science. Is it true? Is it factual? Is it not? It's just something.
Does it make sense?
Exactly. I believe it makes sense. Absolutely.
Now the marijuana plant has THC, right? And it's THC that has that hallucinogenic effect, right? So when we come back, we'll ask Adrian if the plants are always high. We'll be right back.